Well, thank you for joining. And today we're going to see what I rescued from my son's closet. My son has taken a number of pairs of my old shoes and has pulled them together for himself, which is fine. But as you guys know, I'm a little bit of a shoe freak. And, I go and I find the shoes and they're all dusty. It doesn't look like they've been conditioned since I gave them to him. And a few of them haven't even been laced, which makes me wonder whether he's even worn them. But I know he has because I've seen them on them. So, but I have a pair of Allen Edmonds McTavish, a pair of Allen Edmonds Walden, a pair of Allen Edmonds Mora 2.0. And this is a pair of, this is one I can't remember the name of, which is embarrassing. And now I'm really embarrassed because I can't read it. I can't even tell. So, but this is a pair of Cap-Toe. I think this is Lexington. Yeah, that's right. This is Lexington. So I've got Lexingtons, McTavish, Moras, Waldens, and then this is a pair of it's called it's the Berlin Shoe Company Shoe Passion. A pair of black double monks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the fast recovery that I plan to do for all these shoes, and then I'm going to do a worth the price video on each of those for your viewing pleasure. So we'll start with the McTavish. This is a great shoe. It's Allen Edmonds on the 201 last, and doesn't really require a lot of upkeep. It's a kind of a, I'm going to use my glasses cleaner on this, and I'm just going to spray a little bit on my hand, and I'm just going to wipe it down, okay? So I brushed it, and then I did that. It'll evaporate quickly. While that's happening, I'm just going to dust off the other one, and then I'm going to do it again. The McTavish is made out of a waxy leather. This doesn't require a lot of care. This particular pair I've done all kinds of things with. I used to polish these to a high shine, but because it's waxy leather, I think Horween actually calls this Dublin leather. And this is different than the McTavish that you can buy today. It's got leather soles, a big double sole, and this is actually a butyl sole. So these things are like iron. Right? Never resold them. This probably hasn't been available for, I don't know, 15 years in this particular makeup. But a very nice shoe. This is my oldest pair of short wings, which I can't even call mine anymore because I gave them to my son. So, we're just gonna wipe this down, a little bit of alcohol, and we're just gonna buff that up, and voila, as good as new, the McTavish. So pretty standard stuff, trying to keep it real. A lot of people wonder about the 201 last with Allen Edmonds. Do you need to change size? Probably the same people who are asking how in the world my son has all these shoes. But I went to, and he's 19, and I went to get rid of about 20 pairs of shoes last summer. And he said, well, don't get rid of those, Dad. I want them. And so, who am I to say that my son can't afford shoes, right? I mean, my daily rotation takes 3 months to get through. So I can't complain, but I do want to make sure that the shoes are actually, getting worn and are staying in good shape. So now the ones he wears the most are the monks. So those are probably going to require the most care. The rest of these just look like they're going to use a good brushing. Now the Lexingtons, these are on a day-night sole. And this is a day-night sole that probably needs to be replaced. The McTavish don't need to be replaced. There's nothing wrong with that pair of shoes. Now this one, what's interesting is that the shine just picked up right away after I started brushing it. So I don't really think this one needs a whole lot of anything. I may, for this particular leather, may run a coat of severe renovateur over this before I do my video. But biggest problem for these guys is that they need to be resoled. Now the Waldens is an interesting pair of shoes. I've done a couple videos where I've talked about corrected grain leather, and these are the old corrected grain. So as you look at how it, there it goes, it changed the focal point. These are, I mean, they're great little penny loafers. This is an interesting story with these. I've had a couple of problems with them where they had needed to be resoled. One time I sent them in, when I first bought them, the finish was bad and the corrected grain actually started flaking off, which is an interesting kind of thing. And this has a little bit of stain on it. So I'm just using my little eyeglass cleaner and with a tissue and just cleaning it off. Corrected grain requires very little to no maintenance. You don't really even need to moisturize this stuff. I don't even think that the moisturizer gets through to it. You know, these are inexpensive, but as I was saying, the finish was flaking. So I sent them back to Allen Edmonds. Allen Edmonds replaced the finish and sent me the shoes back, which was great. I went through the soles, and then when I sent them in to be resoled, Recrafting and Allen Edmonds accidentally damaged the shoes and needed to send me a brand new pair. So now that brand new pair is not worn down at all, right? This is a pretty good sole. I've wore these probably once a week for 6 years, and they're just in fine shape. This is a really good example of my foot size changing, and you know, the shoes just not really fitting quite right anymore, and so that was part of why I moved away from those. So now we've got the two that are mostly worn, and so require the most amount of work. So I'm just gonna brush them off real quick. This is the Mora. It's Double Monk. These are my most wrinkled shoe, or my biggest crease issue of any shoe that I've ever owned. And you can see even the flap here has been a problem. And so I'm just going to, you know, and I can do some, you know, things to try to straighten it out, but I'm not going to bother with that. My son likes them the way they are, so it's not really fair for me to borrow trouble for them, right? But I think that they could use a nice coat of wax. They're kind of beat up a little bit, so I can certainly do that for him and get these things going. They got a nice grease stain on here as well, so I'm just gonna again, I'll just use my eyeglass cleaner and gets it off, and I just got to treat this leather real nice. So I'm gonna take the straps off here and brush on the inside, get all that stuff cleaned up, and then I'll be able to get this out here. It's always interesting when you're watching a shoe video and you realize somebody has a hard time unbuckling buckles. That might be why I don't wear a lot of monks. But really the main reason is because of this kind of wrinkling. That really disappointed me, and my wife hates monks. And so if I had something that made me upset and made her upset, that is the actual definition of insanity, right? Why would I risk something like that? Now, this is another example. I mean, these shoes clean up really nice, and I feel like they're in pretty good shape. But you know, my son has obviously not heard of a shoehorn, so he's got some issues there. These didn't even have trees in them. You know, he informed me that you know, I shorted him a pair of trees, which I'm sure is not true. But you know, he's 19, so I'm sure they're in his room somewhere. Now these could use new soles, which is part of the reason that I was letting them go. You know, when you have so many shoes that you really aren't going to miss a pair that needs to be resoled, the question comes down to, do you want to pay to have them resoled or not? And you know, my attitude was really not, and so I decided not to. Now I've got a few pairs of shell cordovan that I am going to have resold, but that's you know, those shoes are a lot harder to replace. So all right, as we go here, going to try to give this just a good brush, and again, it's right there. Again, trying to just make it easy. My son is not as hard on his shoes as I am. He doesn't wear dress shoes that often, so for me to you know, put a, you know, mirror shine on these, or, you know, even giving the hard wax is probably not necessary for him. So I will take the slow and easy route here, and just work with some shoe cream and try to get that there. Now what I will do is I brought out some navy blue to work with the black, and I thought that would make a nice little contrast there. So we'll do that a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is, this is the shoe snub, which based on the labeling on the bottom is the same as Saphir. The look and feel of it is nearly identical to Saphir. So I am just going to rub this in. Now, it's funny, I used to have 7 pairs of black shoes, so I bought an extra thing of shoe polish for them, and was all excited that, you know, I was going to have enough and everything was going to be good. And then I decided to purge all of the shoes that I don't wear, and lo and behold, I purged 5 of my 7 pair. So don't really wear black very often, and if you've watched my channel, you know that, because I have hardly any black shoes. And but I used to have a fair amount. As a matter of fact, if I look at early in my shoe collecting or like dress shoe wearing career, my first Allen Edmonds, I had 3 pairs of black Allen Edmonds, and that was my rotation. That's all I wore. As a matter of fact, at early time in my career, all I wore was black suits, black and charcoal. That was it. So now, no Saphir Renovateur, just simply using this shoe cream, and because shoes are in good shape, the leather's not dry, this has a lot of properties to it, and you know, it's doing okay. I feel like this will give it the moisture and the nourishment that it needs without oversaturating it, because, you know, too much polish, it's bad for the shoes too, right? Especially too much conditioner. There's always a happy medium. You gotta condition them, make sure that they don't dry out, but you don't want to overdo it. So really straightforward. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just rubbing it in on the heels where I feel like they've collapsed a little bit. You know, that's just really massaging the leather and making sure that the polish really infuses into it. Just make sure that it does its thing as it dries. Now, it doesn't take a long time to dry, so I'm just going to you know, kind of get it in along the welt edge here. Now, I'm a traditionalist. I do all this stuff by hand. The warmth in my fingers, I feel, makes a big difference to it. And then I'll just do my Lexingtons as well, instead of doing the Saphir. I feel like this will be enough. And you know, they're in, as I said before, they're in good shape. So this shoe cream, really, really good. A lot goes a long way. You just want to have it so that it feels like it's getting into leather. It's permeating. And again, that's why you do it with your hands. You can kind of feel when there's a very thin layer there, and you can feel that you haven't gone too far. So just really quick. I remember the first time my dad showed me how to polish a pair of shoes. You know, he pulled out his old polish brush and kiwi. Really, I think it was the same tin he used in the Army. And he'd probably been out of the Army for 20 years when he showed me this. And he was able to just make it go super fast, super well. But he also said to me that, you know, modern days, he didn't find himself polishing his shoes nearly as much. And that, to me, you know, is a challenge. I mean, why wear nice shoes? You're not going to keep them looking super sharp. Okay, so that is the black. Now I'm going to just do a little bit of brush on the pairs that I did. And then what I like to do with black is add a coat of navy, because I think it adds a little bit of depth to the color. So, you know, a lot of people, you could brush the shoes one time. You know, when you're really doing a final polish, you know, I find that lifting the brush off the shoe makes a big difference. So you don't want to just brush like this. It's really lifting it off. So that, look at how nice that is. Just real quick, real straightforward, just lifting it up there. And I can see the mirror shine that I used to have on this. Just rebuilding, you can see the shapes of the lights, you can see all that stuff already just there. I mean, it's, you know, it's really, really close. It would be easy to just pull it back, but since my son doesn't need that, like it, want it, I'm not gonna bother. Now, one of the things that I like about this brush is that it's a long brush. Your typical brush is 6 inches, and this is probably 8 inches. So it's not a lot longer. It's just enough to make a difference in the way it's set. Now, remember these? I didn't want to put anything on it, but I'm assuming that there's a little bit of black wax still on the brush because I didn't wait for them to dry like for an hour or anything. And so I'm going to just use that just to add a little bit of spice into these. I think that they're looking really nice. Alright, so that's pretty good. Do edge protector here. I just do heel and edge dress. Alright, so I've applied the navy and we're letting that dry. And now we're going to take a look at these brown shoes here and see what we want to do. We got some leftover polish for some old burnish. So I'm just gonna run over my light tan here. I'm just gonna put this over the whole shoe. So light tan, you can kind of see, goes together. And this is a lighter color than the shoes themselves. The shoes are the old Allen Edmonds Bourbon, which is basically a combination of black and tan. And what's funny is that I probably have some black polish still on my hands, and it doesn't really matter because in the old days I would actually mix the black polish and the tan polish in order to get these ready. So I put a little bit too much cream on there, so I have to rub it in extra hard, make sure that I get it, rub it off of the heel there. Now I'm going to try to get into the welt line with my hand. Now what I thought I would do today in order to have a nice little fun burnish here is I thought I would do the seams and the toe box in burgundy. I think burgundy and brown are an underrated combination. I think that you can do a lot with them and really, you know, add some fun into a pair of shoes. Now, whether my son is going to agree with that, I don't know, but you know what? He didn't take care of the shoes, so I'm not really going to worry about it too much. Alright, so here we are, we're going back here, getting around the welt. Alright, so okay, again, just rubbing it in. You want it to feel, it's hard to describe it, you want to feel like it's accepting as you're rubbing it in. You want it to feel like it's accepting the polish, but not getting oversaturated. If the polish sits on the outside and doesn't get absorbed, then you probably have too much on there. So it's a balancing act for sure. Aside from everything else, if you just let the shoes rest for a little while, they will absorb quite a lot. So you want to keep it you know, good for them. So I'm going to call that done with the brown, and just try to wipe off my hands here. And what we're going to do is we're going to brush out the navy that we put on these other shoes. And again, navy is not going to show really well in the black. What it's going to do is it's going to be a very, very subtle difference and change the shine a little bit. So I'd be astounded if you can see that. But I always like it when I'm wearing these black shoes with the navy burnish in them, that I know that it's there. And every now and then, in the right picture, in the right light, you can see it. So, and it's just subtle. And to me, subtlety is part of the fun. So, and there we go. Get the buckle back on these. And I'm going to take my time with this a little bit, because you know what? These the Moras have a little bit of drying to do. So there is my Shoe Passion, or my son's Shoe Passion Double Monks. Solid shoes. These are in a wide size, which is really too big for me now. But definitely something that he likes, and he likes the fact that he's got some buckle shoes, and you know, it irritates my wife, so that's a double thing because she hates them, and they went from me to him, and there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. So these came out real nice, navy subtle. I'll lace them before I do the worth the price video. And here we go. Allen Edmonds, Lexington. Okay. Now, let's take a look at these. Now, black brush, brown shoes with brown polish. It can be done. This is also the same brush that I used to dust the shoes. And yes, that's probably, if I was working on my shoes, I'd probably switch out brushes and everything, but these are my son's, so I'm not overly worried about it. And I'm going to be messing with the color a little bit anyway, so who cares? Alright. It's pretty decent looking. And here we go. So, gets the gets the shine lifted a bit. Alright, now with these, with big creases like this, you gotta make sure that what you don't do is do any kind of polish that's gonna accentuate the crease, because that would be bad. Now, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna do a little bit of burgundy to try to get just a little bit of color. So, not a lot. I'm gonna take a few coats. And I'm going to do a little bit along the edge here on the cap. If I do this right, it'll be subtle. Subtle is the name of the game. So we're just slowly getting the seams. Okay. Want to get a big seam here. I'm going to do this a few times, so I want to try to get this to have a little bit of shine. Do it back. You know, when they do this in the factory and you see these guys with sponges and, you know, the practice makes perfect, right? I mean, these guys know what they're doing. For me, I don't want to use a sponge. You know, I just got a little bit too much on here in my opinion, and now I'm worried about it streaking. So, you know, I use my other finger, I clean it up, it's no big deal. Now, go along the edge here. I've never done burgundy on these shoes before because I didn't have burgundy polish for a long time, so never really did it. But I was watching some videos and they really rate burgundy as a kind of brown. It's just a red brown. So I thought, hey, what the heck? I wonder if that'll work. So now I have done mahogany, which is a reddish brown, and certainly done a lot of that on brown shoes. As a matter of fact, I took a pair and I had them resoled, and it had that burnish. And the cobbler, who's pretty famous on the boards, calls me up and he's like, "Hey, John, what's going on with this burgundy? You want that, you know, made permanent?" I said, "Sure. I mean, what is that going to do?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll take care of it." And so I think, and I don't know, but I think he actually did a little bit of a dye to make a little bit, and it was not burgundy, I said that wrong, it was mahogany. Just a very subtle pair of Allen Edmonds walnut shoes, where he basically made that change more permanent. So, just an interesting little tidbit as we try to get this wrapped up here. Alright. Okay. That's interesting. I got a little bit too much on there. Trying to just keep it on the seam. Alright, I'm going to go around here. You know, the monk strap pieces, it's always an interesting thing, right? You look at these patinas that these artists do, and you know, it always seems like they're going a little hog wild with the dye, and then you come out and you look at it at the end and you see their vision turned into reality, and it's pretty exciting stuff. It's not always like that when you try doing it by hand, and candidly, I think that dye is probably easier to work with than trying to figure out how to do it with polish. You know, polish is just, I mean, I'm not sitting here with a paintbrush, right? It's just it's a different medium. So definitely something to think about when you're looking to do this. Now, I've done my share, or my bit, I guess you would say, trying to do dyes as well. And yeah, I'm going to leave that one to the professionals. I'm not doing that again. Alright, so subtle. We're just going to go around the edge here, get the stuff off my hand, put a little bit more. You know, sometimes you got to just put a little bit of a base, especially around the edge, make it look a little bit more natural. It's part of the fun with creating a hand patina. All right, got that again. And get that off my fingers. And let's start brushing. Still a little wet, but that's okay. Again, subtle. Subtle is the operative word here. So put this back. All right. Get the hand out of the way. Let this thing dry. And there you go. Again, subtle tones throughout the shoe. Change it, but not really changing it. Right. You know, shoe polish, especially the wax, is very transparent, so you're not going to see a lot of change with it. That's why you use the shoe cream, which has a lot more pigment to it, but even that, pretty transparent. Which is good, because if you don't like the way it comes out, you're not stuck with anything. Alright. cannot tell you how many times I tried working on having these flaps on the one of these to lay still, because I felt like it was just too much. But there you go. So that, as they say, is that. Some shape there. Thank you for watching. That is me resurrecting some shoes from my son's room. Wisconsin Shoe Guy, and I'm out.